The presentation this afternoon is on advance payment reduction. This is a facility that has been available by law in the current Income Tax Act and also current Tax Administration Act. The taxpayers are allowed to explore this option, and it is mandatory for companies to pay advance tax. Likewise for business or sole traders or individuals that pay provisional tax. So for today, we will touch on companies. We will look into the overview of our advance payment reduction process in TPOS, and we will explain some major changes in the process, and there will be a live demo. We'll go through the system on how taxpayers can enjoy this platform. This will be available when the system goes live on January 2021. Under the law, the reduction in payment of advance tax is already there in the law with effect from 1st August 2020. It's mentioned in the section 110 under the Income Tax Act, the current Income Tax Act that came into effect on 1st January 2016, that taxpayers are liable to pay advance tax, especially companies, for income tax purposes. Previously, prior to 1st August 2020, taxpayers were allowed to pay advance tax on 3 installments. After, with effect from 1st August 2020 until to date, they are allowed to pay with advance tax on 9 installments. So it is on the last day of the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and also the 12th month of the tax year, and also the 1st and the 2nd month of the following year, that is outside the financial year. So there is a new provision that has been allowed under section 110(6), where taxpayers are allowed to reduce their advance tax payment. As you might be aware, your current advance tax is based on your previous year net profit. So with this facility available under the law, you can also reduce. The system will automatically populate your previous year net profit, but the law allows you to reduce that if you're able to gauge your net profit of the current year that you've gone through. Some of the major changes, as I've already alluded to, the as-is process for reduction in advance tax, you need to write to FRCS formally. With this system, you just need to log in as a taxpayer into the portal and request you can lodge in your request via the portal when the portal is in place in January 2021. So as I've already also mentioned, the recent budget amendments, there is 9 installments compared to the past where there are only 3 installment payments. So we'll now try to go through the demo through the system. So what you just need is to put in your ID, your user ID. Then you'll need to put in your password. So you need to be very careful on what your user ID and password. Then you need to go to request. There's several tiles there, so you need to click on your request. Then you go to income tax estimation. There is a tab there that requests to re-estimate income tax liability. You need to double click on that again. Then you need to read the instructions very carefully, and you need to understand the instructions before you tick the tab on your declaration. Then after that, then you can move to the next stage. Without ticking your declaration, you will not be able to move to the next stage. So in the next stage, there is an estimation number. There is a fiscal year start. There is a fiscal year end. So the estimation number, it will indicate the estimated statement that was revised previously. In this particular situation, this is your first request. So it is your first request. So it is number 1. So the fiscal year still remains at 1st January 2020. Likewise, the fiscal year end is 31st December 2020. So your estimated income tax liability, it might be captured from the previous years. It's self-populated because it captures from the previous data. So in 2019, it might be your profit will be 40,000. So that is why it is bringing it forward to 2020. So with your estimate, and you have 3 installment payments because of the previous law that has now been repealed on the last day of July 2020. So now you, upon your request, you want to reduce that estimated income tax liability. So if you can put in maybe 20,000. So 20,000. Then the system automatically on 3 installments will articulate to you the amount of advance tax that you need to pay. Come January 2021, there'll be 9 installment payments that will be there. They'll be in the system when it is in place. So then after that, then you can move to the next step. Then you just need to populate this with your TIN. Ensure that it is the correct TIN and your designation as an accountant. Then you need to click on the declaration tab. After that, then you can submit. When you submit, this is the message that you need to receive. If you do not receive this message, that means there is something wrong. So you need to revisit what you've done. So it mentions the reference number. It's 32. There's 5060 and 1943. So that is the reference number that you need to code when you interact with the FRCS, when you try to inquire a feedback from FRCS. Then also you can cite the letter that is automatically generated that will be sent to the taxpayer as a confirmation that we've received your application. So there is a letter that is signed by the acting CEO as an acknowledgement of the estimated statement of income tax. It acknowledges what you've lodged, and a decision will be notified in due course to you. So there is a reference number that has been articulated in the letter, and that is the reference number that you will need to use when you try to determine the status of the application. So that is all from me. Then I'll ask Vanai Samodhyan Rao to go on to the next presentation.
Good afternoon, participants. My topic this afternoon is about change in method of depreciation. Objective of this presentation is to give an overview of the changes to the new tax system, explain the rules on these changes, and conduct a live demo. The depreciation, as you know, it's a reduction in value of the assets over time. Method of depreciation. There are 2 methods under this 2015 Income Tax Act. The first one under Section 32 is the straight line method. Second one under Section 33, diminishing value method. However, any structural improvement can be depreciated only under the straight line method, minus the cost of the method. Calculation for depreciation method. On the straight line, cost of the asset times the rate. Under the diminishing value, written down value beginning of the year times the rate. Apply for change in method of depreciation. For the Section 814, entitles the taxpayer to apply for change in the method of depreciation. As a tax authority, to be able to accept the change from the taxpayer system should have the actual or the current data. Currently, under the old system, there is no data record of the what type of depreciation are being used by the taxpayer. So going into the new system, whatever depreciation is opted by the company or by the taxpayer while lodging the first return, that will be recorded in the data system. So once captured through the first return, this information will be stored in the master data under the CIT facts. So once this information is captured in NTs, taxpayer will be able to apply for the change in method of depreciation through the taxpayer portal. Let's go through the live demo. You need to have your password, your user ID and password, login. You'll have several tiles on your dashboard. Click change of circumstances tile. All the possible types of changes to the taxpayer's master data will be displayed on the screen. The change of depreciation method tile will be visible only if the taxpayer has submitted the return through the new tax system. So we have gone past that, and now you can see the instruction. You need to read it thoroughly. Looking at the first the application, the authority on the date what for you to apply. So going to the second part, you need to check after reading through the instruction thoroughly, tick the declaration and move on to the next stage. For clicking the green yes there, you have seen that you already filed the first return evidence by citing that there is already been a depreciation appearing, current depreciation method, the new, and the date. So you choose a reason for the change. In here, we'll choose a method provided earlier was incorrect, the second one. Then we save, continue to the next step. Now we need to provide evidence to upload concerning the change. Close. Save. Continue to the declaration. Enter your TIN, whoever is filing in the application. Designation as an accountant. Tick. Save. And submit. The evidence that you have successfully complete your application. And when you open this letter, this notification, acknowledgement, it'll give you the number for you to, your reference number, for you to use while communicating with the FRCS, with its office. That is the evidence you can see in the screen. that you've successfully lodged your application. Now I hand you over to our next presenter, Mr. Anil Sarma, regarding his concessory tax rate topic.
Thank you, Mr. Moden Rao. Good afternoon to all the listeners there. My presentation this afternoon is on concessionary tax rate for relocation of regional or global headquarters to Fiji. I'll be explaining to you online application and approval process. The income tax 2015 provides several concessions to taxpayers. These concessions require prior approval of Fiji Revenue and Customs Service, and in some instances, prior approval of other Fiji government institutions. If a concessionary tax rate is granted to a company, it can be claimed as a deduction on the taxpayer's corporate income tax or CIT return, thereby reducing their chargeable income for the tax years in which the concessionary tax rate is granted. Section 138 of the Income Tax Act 2015 legitimately allows a concessionary corporate income tax rate to be granted to those taxpayers who intends to relocate their regional or global headquarters to Fiji. Successful applicants will be granted a tax rate of 17% or other such rate determined by the Minister on income derived from qualifying services provided to approved recipients. The non-approved income of such applicants will not qualify for the concessionary tax rate and would continue to be charged at the prevailing corporate income tax rate. This presentation explains the process for a taxpayer to apply for a concessionary tax rate. Now we'll move into live demo on concessionary tax rate. While logging into taxpayer portal, you ensure that you correctly enter your password and correct username to log in into the system. Once you enter the correct username and password, the system will navigate you to the main dashboard. Now you see the series of tiles. We click on request. You'll see then after there are various options. Please click to concessions. Then after, the system will navigate you to this menu where you will see 4 tiles in front of you. We'll click to the request for concessionary tax rate. Now you'll see the TIN number of the company, and the company name is auto-populated. Then we require to enter the commencement or proposed actual commencement date. This is the date the company proposed to commence its activity or relocate to Fiji. Moving on, there are mandatory fields, number of locally engaged employees who are Fiji citizens. And beside, you will see there is a stick which identifies that this field is a mandatory. If you won't fill this field, the system won't be able to move further. It will give you an error message. Moving on now, detail of local employees. Number of locally engaged employees who are not Fiji citizens. And we have also cost of relocation of head office to Fiji. The estimate cost which will incur to move the headquarters to Fiji. With that amount of capital investment in Fiji for relocation of head office to Fiji. After filling this field, there are attachments which is mandatory. Detail of local employees, which we need to upload in the system for verification purpose while processing this application. Once this information is uploaded in the system, we can move on uploading other attachment, which is detail of foreign employees. Once this attachment is successfully loaded, we move on to recipient of qualifying services. We click on add a recipient menu. We'll have options available there. We enter the name of the recipient. And the relationship to applicant, which is company is controlled. And a country of incorporation, you notice there is option available, drop down menu, the country or the headquarters, the original headquarters globally that company is applying from. Now we move on to shareholders data. We click on add shareholders. We'll have this option available where we can enter the name of the shareholder and the percentage that shareholder owns in the business. Adding to it, also we have to add the director's information. We have to click on add to director, where the system will provide with drop down menu to enter the name of the director and the percentage of shares the director owns in the business. Moving on, qualifying services provided to this recipient. It is a mandatory that you have to click at least one. If there is more to it, the options are available, but it is a mandatory at least one click should be applied to the respective qualifying services. Now we move on to the attachments. There are certificate of incorporation, which is a must and mandatory. We upload the certificate of incorporation together with declaration by the applicant. We upload the declaration declaring this uploads. You may find some glitches. It is advised you available these documents convenient to you while uploading in desktop or any other folders where it will be easily available while uploading. Moving on, the other information which are mandatory, we are uploading to see that all the required documents are uploaded successfully. this demonstration with the test data this afternoon. This is giving a clear glimpse that this is how the system will be available come 1st January 2021 when it's go live. With this platform, with test data, we're demonstrating. Moving on, the other documents, which is a statement of financial positions. We upload in the system these information, which is very important when processing the application. Next is evidence of financing arrangement. We have uploaded all the documents. Remember, this is a mandatory. So we have successfully uploaded all the documents here. Now we move on to clicking this Save Recipient button. Moving further, we click on green button to continue to next step, that is declaration. Enter the name and the contact number and also the email address in which, if there is any need for further information, FRCS could contact the applicant through mobile phone number or through email. By clicking the declaration button, declaring all the information which is filled and provided in this application is true and correct. Now, you save this application and click the submit button. After submitting this application, you'll receive this message which confirms that your application has successfully reached to FRCS platform. You click to the left-hand side of the icon to receive the acknowledgement letter from Fiji Revenue and Customs Services confirming that your application for concessionary tax rate has been received. Please do not forget to quote the reference number 32602142 when liaising with FRCS in future. This is the end of this presentation. Now I hand over to our host, Mr. Nailote Naka.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chuchibaka, Mr. Vanessa Magandrao, and Mr. Anil Sharma for the presentation. And also, for those of you who have sent in their questions this afternoon, thank you so much. I just go over to one last question that is there. The details required to be uploaded, it says that it does not seem to be articulated in the provisions of Section 138. For the particular participant to send this over, we will address this one with you after this presentation. And also we will have the question and answers available with the webinar video within 2 weeks after this presentation. So once again, with the participant that sent over the last question, we will address it with you directly with you after this presentation. So before we finish this session, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for your participation this afternoon. I have noted all your questions and input, and that will endeavor to address this with you. We may be contacting you individually on some of the issues you have brought up, like I just mentioned earlier. Please join us again for the next and the last webinar session on the last part of the company income tax. That is the company income tax return filing for tax years 2021 and beyond, which will be held in the October, it is next month. Before we end, we would like to ask all the participants today to please spare a few minutes and go to the SurveyMonkey link shown on the screen and fill in the feedback survey. Your feedback is important and will help us improve. I'll leave the screen on for a few minutes so that you can note down or screenshot the link before we end the meeting. With these few words, thank you all once again. Stay safe and have a blessed weekend. Goodbye.